But I think her combative style is very much in keeping with the man she serves, combative Trump. And she's actually quite good fun to listen to. I mean, she knows us, or she knew her stuff. I mean, I'm sorry she's going. Only 28, though, and she's just had another kid, so it's perfectly natural for her to want to take time off. I don't quite see how they'll find somebody so charismatic to follow her.
I'm joined this morning by the Times leader writer Michael Binyon. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Hugo.
Did you watch the eclipse?
I was right at the beginning of a prom, so as they struck up the first chord of Beethoven's Seventh, the world got dark and I missed it.
Well, it didn't get that dark, to be honest. I watched it on a hillside in North London, and I would say it was darkish.
Yes.
It was nice, the sort of communal kind of thing.
It was sort of 7 o'clock, so it was sort of getting dusky anyway, I would have thought.
1999's was better. Did you catch that one?
I might have done. I can't remember. They come and go. I've been around so long.
Some people, they're a once in a lifetime experience. Michael, you've probably seen about 8.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Well, look. Speaking of the sun, it continues to dominate the headlines as the 5th heat wave of the year peaks at temperatures as high as 38 degrees if you're in England, while listeners in Scotland and Northern Ireland can expect cloud with a chance of showers. Lucky them. There are warnings that the heat is going to lead to power cuts, rail and air travel delays, and a significant impact on health services as well. Michael, it has been a very long and hot summer. Do you feel you're getting used to it, or are you a bit at your wits' end?
Well, I'm sort of used to it, but I'm also tired of it. I mean, it really is very, very tedious when you just can't sleep very well at night. You have to draw the curtains. That actually makes a difference, drawing all the curtains during the day. Tip that I read probably in the Times, and ways to try to keep your house cool. But, you go out and you sort of wilt and you feel it's just tiring. I don't mind hot temperatures, but when they go on and on and on, what I mind most is absolutely no rain, so the garden is just a desert.
Yeah, I mean, there has not been a summer like it before in Britain. There have been hot summers before, but this summer we have breached 30 degrees every month since May. That's 4 months in a row. That has not happened before.
Well, everyone went on about the 1976 and 75 summers, which I remember well, of course, and they were pretty hot. And in fact, they actually appointed a minister for drought.
Right.
I can't remember his name, but the day he was appointed, it poured with rain.
But they were hot for less long. I'm wondering, yes. I mean, has this summer changed or affected or impacted how you think about a warming planet, how you think about climate change?
Oh, well, it definitely is. I mean, it's absolute proof, if ever you needed it, that if you have a global phenomenon like the world slowly getting hotter, I mean, it only takes a tiny fraction of a degree, but it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference if sea temperatures are higher, and then you get all this cumulative effect of the dry ground making it hotter still, making it dusty, reflecting, absorbing heat, all that. I mean, the climate change specialists, yes, they do go on a bit with their jargon, but they're right.
I'm interested, has it impacted... Was it likely to impact your own behaviour? Because I sort of think there's some people who think, well, this shows the planet is warming up, I need to live very differently. And there's some people who think, well, this shows the planet is warming up, it's too late to do anything, I might as well set fire to everything I like and take all the flights.
Well, I'm not going to stop flying, which is one thing that real activists do. And I'm going to, I mean, small little things, I suppose, if it doesn't make much difference. Don't waste water, don't, leave the tap running when you needn't. All these tiny things. But I haven't really changed my behaviour. I've just thought, well, it's up to business and government to regulate things so that we put out less CO2, and that's going to be the big picture.
Water is a big one. I think I've certainly changed my behaviour on water in the last few months. Look, let's bring in now Rachel Brisley, who's research director and a climate expert at Ipsos UK. Rachel, good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for being with us. Have you been able to track increasing concern about climate change over the last few very hot months?
Yes, we did a poll a couple of weeks ago when we asked people how concerned they were about climate change before the summer and how concerned they are now. And there was an increase, not a huge increase, but sort of just under 70% were concerned about climate change before the summer and around 74% now. So there has been a percentage increase. And we have seen over time, so we've been tracking what people think about climate change since the turn of the century. And generally there are spikes whenever there's big flood events, wildfires, and a particularly big spike around COP26 when there was a lot more talk about climate change. So it does sort of come up, but it does tend to go down again quite quickly. July doesn't show a particular peak, but we're out in field at the moment with our August survey, so it will be interesting to see if it's peaked again and how long that carries on for.
So really what people basically stop being concerned as soon as it starts raining and gets a bit colder?
Generally, we've seen in the past, yes. So, I mean, often with the UK, the big climate events in the past have tended to be floods rather than heat waves. That's more the last few years. But yes, there've been peaks around things like those floods. I'm trying to remember the years. I think 2012, 2008, and then it's sort of gone down again, sort of a month or so later.
I think there were big ones in 2014 as well. Look, does it? What about climate skepticism? People who simply don't believe that human beings are impacting the environment at all. Has that all but died out? Because it was all the rage 10 years ago.
We haven't seen a huge sort of increase or decrease. I think it's less than 10% people sort of don't put any attribution on the hot weather to climate change or believe in it at all. So it's sort of around 5-10%, and that is pretty that sort of continues. Yes.
And with these concerns being so widespread, Rachel, do they translate directly into support for climate change policies, support for net zero, that kind of thing, or is it more complicated than that?
It's a little bit more complicated because we've done some tracking around net zero living, looking at a number of policies that would support reduction in CO2 emissions. So things like frequent flyer levies, energy efficient boilers, sort of changing product pricing, and generally the majority of people support those. But then if you say, would they cost you personally money or change behaviour, then people tend to support them less. There's also a big issue around, if we look at energy and cost of living pressures, that the vast majority of the population, 82%, are concerned about the cost of bills. They're also concerned about energy security and less so, but still a sort of big majority about interruptions in energy supplies. So this then translates into people being concerned, very much supporting renewable energy, but also over half of people supporting drilling in the North Sea.
And what about, finally, I suppose, what about fatalism? It always interests me. What about people who have sort of see and recognise a warming world and have just kind of given up because they think the rest of the world isn't doing anything, we're not doing enough, it's happened already, it's too late? Do you see much evidence of that?
Well, more from some of our public dialogues. So we did one with the Climate Change Committee last year on adaptation. That we found from those that if you use very sort of shocking, scary type language, that can lead to fatalism. It's sort of, what's the point? I think very much if there's always, things are in a bad way, the world's warming up, but there are still ways to adapt and there are still ways to mitigate, then that tends to lead to more action.
I know I said finally, Rachel, but one more. Your recent data then shows that more than a third of people believe the Labour government has done a bad job at handling climate change since taking power. Do you have any sense of what people think the government should be doing instead or doing more of?
Well, generally, from our sort of polling and our other dialogues with the public, it's felt that the government should be putting more money into adaptation, into supporting with flooding, supporting with high temperatures, particularly where vulnerable people are concerned, but also that they should be helping the population more to take sustainable measures, so making it cheaper for people to have electric cars, heat pumps, etc. So that's very much about sort of subsidising people to make those changes.
Rachel Brisley from Ipsos UK, thank you very much indeed. Michael Binyon is still with me. Michael, let's talk about Washington a little bit. Karoline Leavitt has announced she's stepping down as the White House press secretary. She's 28 years old. She's been one of Donald Trump's most loyal and combative defenders. She says she wants to spend more time with her family. Let me play you some of her highlights.
So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist. Of course the president supports peaceful protests. What a stupid question. I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press later.
Is there any evidence on that he wasn't aware of it?
You're a reporter. You should find out. Does anyone have any questions for Patty or for me? No?
I have a question.
No. Anybody? Okay. We'll see you all later.
Michael, you worked in Washington. How typical was Karoline Leavitt of press secretaries you dealt with?
Well, she was a lot more combative. I mean, she was pretty outspoken, and she used to sort of insult the journalists. I mean, the previous press secretaries used to try to schmooze and cozy up to them to get them on side and, just sort of say, well, you see how President Reagan sees it, and it should be like this, whatever. And the previous ones were, I remember Larry Speakes. It was a great name, Speakes, the press man. And that was actually actually more effective. But I think her combative style is very much in keeping with the man she serves, combative Trump. And she's actually quite good fun to listen to. I mean, she knows us, or she knew her stuff. I mean, I'm sorry she's going. Only 28, though, and she's just had another kid, so it's perfectly natural for her to want to take time off. I don't quite see how they'll find somebody so charismatic to follow her.
Do you think the journalists who are in the White House, who tangle with people like that, do they quite enjoy a bit of spark and a bit of fight? It's better than the kind of sort of the normal kind of sort of craven but deceptive obsequiousness.
It's much more fun. Yes, I think they do, and they can give as good as they get. I mean, they can lash out and say, well, this is all just rubbish, we know the real story, we know what Trump's up to or whatever, we know you're hiding something, aren't you? So journalists are pretty robust in their opinions, and they don't mind receiving it as well as giving it.
Something they might mind more. So she was also, I mean, with the blessing of the boss, of course, she was also responsible for sort of basically being some hostility towards the traditional media in terms of even giving them access and offering a lot more access to what they call independent journalists, bloggers, influencers, people with sort of, smaller perhaps niche, perhaps overtly partisan platforms. With your sort of, long-standing diplomatic journalism hat on, what do you think of that?
Well, I don't like that. I think that traditional media still have a role and a place and can still be relied on to report responsibly and usually accurately, where some of these other bloggers and, various websites, I mean, you don't know what they're going to say, and there's no check on the veracity of what they're putting out. They get stuff that's completely biased because they've got a line to put across. And of course, if it's a pro-Trump line, obviously the present system is going to help them, and that's why it's more propaganda than news. I mean, briefing the press, as it were, should be briefing everybody impartially about what's actually happening. Of course, you can put your own spin on it, and all press secretaries do, but just to pick those that you think are going to puff you up with sort of Trumpish policies, I think that's completely wrong.
Well, look, stick with us. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about what's behind rising tensions in the West Bank as Israel sends its military in to drive away Israeli settlers. I'm still joined by the Times leader writer Michael Binyon. Michael, the Israeli military says it's going to deploy additional troops to the occupied West Bank after failing to force away Israeli settlers who have trapped 2 Palestinian families in their homes since Sunday. There's been a sharp rise in settler violence in the West Bank this year, with UN officials warning the situation has reached breaking point. How serious is this? What's your interpretation of what's happening here? Clearly, the Israeli military, if it wishes to, is capable of driving away settlers. The fact that it isn't doing so, is there a sort of covert endorsement of settler violence from the Israeli government?
Yes, there is indeed, particularly from the right-wing elements of that government, and I find it absolutely shameful. I mean, it's ethnic cleansing on a large scale, and it's continuing, and it's day by day, and somehow it's being brushed aside. People don't pay much attention. World governments, they sort of regret, and they talk about this, and they outlaw several people, ban them from coming to their countries they say are involved in settler violence, but it's continuing every day, and it's absolutely unacceptable. And of course, it's trying to create facts on the ground. Now, the army clearly is getting its steer from the government, and the government is turning a very blind eye to this. They're, quietly nudging these settlers along, and some of them are really extremist. I mean, there's not only beatings and harassment, taking the land, destroying people's vineyards. I mean, clearly just trying to drive them from the land and take it themselves.
I mean, so the Israeli forces, they've used tear gas to remove a settler's tent. They say they'll take disciplinary action against soldiers filmed praying with the settlers. I guess it can be a complex situation because Israel has, the vast majority of people of a certain age are in the IDF. Some of them are settlers. Some of them go home. They're still wearing their uniforms. It's not always quite clear where IDF action ends and settler action begins.
Well, indeed. I mean, understandably, there is this movement, and there has been this movement for quite a long time on the Israeli right to say that all traditional Palestine is Israel. And of course the West Bank is that bit of Palestine that the Israelis didn't actually occupy or conquer in the original war of 1948. And that has been a point of contention ever since, the claim that Judea and Samaria actually are part of Greater Israel. The Palestinians living there, they've clung on, but more and more emigrating. I mean, it's a sort of de facto slow annexation.
I mean, there are still several million Palestinians there. From Netanyahu's perspective, I mean, because there are attacks on settlers as well. Settlers do require a huge amount of security when in the West Bank. Is he reluctant to take on the settlers because he needs their political support in government, or does he share their aims?
Well, a bit of both, I think. He certainly needs their support politically. His coalition, well, it's coming up for election, and it's going to be quite tense to see whether the Iran war and also what's going on in the West Bank will influence or help Netanyahu. And his rather aggressive, tough stance, I think, on the whole, has tended to help him, certainly more recently, and particularly since the start of the Iran war. But also, he has sneaking sympathy himself for this whole idea. I mean, Netanyahu is a man of the Israeli right. He's not the sort of liberal European-type Jewish leader that we saw at the beginning of the creation of the State of Israel. Far from it. I mean, his party has always been quite tough and has always made a claim to all of Greater Palestine.
Look, sticking with Israel and Israeli matters for a moment, the former Mossad chief Yossi Cohen has told the Times podcast, The General and the Journalist, that Israeli security forces thwarted a number of terror plots on British soil while he was in charge between 2016 and 2021. He says Andy Burnham should bear in mind the British lives that Mossad has saved when he criticises Israel's actions. What do you make of those comments? How likely does that seem to you?
Well, I think he's absolutely right. The Israelis certainly have been very helpful in alerting Britain to terrorist plots because they have a good grip on it. I mean, their spy network is pretty effective. They know mostly who's plotting what and where, and they keep track on what's going on overseas because Israel itself has targets overseas that are vulnerable. I mean, their own embassies and things like that, their own citizens or, Jewish people generally. So the Israelis have a very good handle on this, and I'm sure they have helped the British, which is good. But it doesn't necessarily mean that Britain shouldn't criticise what Israel itself is doing in its own territory. I mean, that is a different matter. Criticising the policies of the government of Israel is surely a perfectly legitimate thing to do if one feels that they need criticising. But it doesn't mean that one can't be grateful for help received on terrorism or appreciate and acknowledge it.
Yeah, look, Michael, finally, after the 10:30 news, I'm going to be speaking to Brian Johnson, who is a tech entrepreneur who's trying to slow down ageing using all manner of science and data, some pretty extreme experiments on himself. The weird things he does include waking up at 4:30 every morning, going to bed at 8:30, eating meals of pureed vegetables that look like baby food, all manner of supplements and light treatments and all that kind of stuff. And his basic plan is to live forever. Do you want to live forever? You nearly have.
I've lived quite a long time on a regime of going to the pub quite regularly and not doing nearly enough exercise. I mean, the only change I would make, and in fact have made, is just eat less.
Right.
People forget that as you get older, you don't need so many calories. You're not so active. I mean, I try to be active, try to be mentally active, but you're not so active. And, as I approach my 82nd year, I sort of feel, well, if I've been to the pub all this time, I can go again. But just don't get a beer belly if you can help it. I mean, keep reasonably fit. That's the secret. And keep engaged in what's happening in the world.
I mean, how many years have you been writing for the Times for, Michael?
I've been 54 years on the same paper, which does
54 years on the same
stick
paper.
in the mud.
Yeah, I remember going to your 50th anniversary party. It seems like ages ago. So, I mean, look, I think I prefer your model than Brian Johnson's model. Do you think you've got anything to learn from Brian Johnson?
No, nothing at all. I think the idea of eating slop every day and going to bed at weird times and doing all sorts of strange exercises would simply ruin the pleasures of life.
I think you are my idol. The influencer, Michael Binyon. Influencer and health influencer and Times leader writer, Michael Binyon. Michael, always a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.